Hello class, welcome to week 12, module 12, Aging and Social Welfare Policy. We are in the end stretch of the semester. I can't believe it, it's gone by so fast. You all have done excellent work, amazing amount of learning that you have done. You're able to understand how policy works and how it really impacts the clients that you work with and that you will work with once you get out into the professional field. So the module that we're going to discuss this week is Aging and Social Welfare Policy. After reading the chapter, some of my key takeaways are that the aging population of the United States has grown in proportion as a proportion of the population, and it will continue to grow. So if you look at the first page of chapter 10, it basically says that it's grown since 1900. The percentage of elderly people in the country has more than tripled the number. And so that's not changing. And actually, this is a trend that's going to be increasing. I talked about it last week with the baby boomers retiring and people actually living longer due to health innovations and medical treatments. That creates an older population, and it can create some strain on the social welfare system that we currently have in place. So the chapter discusses the various social welfare programs that serve elderly populations primarily through the Social Security Act and through retirement savings and social insurance, but there's also the health care through Medicare. There are some services for long-term care, and also there are adult protective services that are discussed a little bit in the chapter. So the elderly population is considered a vulnerable population due to lower income and savings. And there are disparities, especially racial disparities, but also disparities for women, for elderly women who tend to have less savings and less economic security as they get older. And hopefully we'll see that trend change as this current generation that's aging out of the workforce was one of the generations where we saw a lot more women enter the leadership fields in the different sectors that they worked in. So I think we'll see some of that changing, but overall there still are disparities that need to be considered and should be addressed in the society that we have today. And the elder population has power through its participation in the democratic process. Voting is important. And so you see that picture on the bottom right. That's the AARP Association, American Association of Retired Persons. It's a huge lobbying group. There's a lot of participation by people in the elderly age bracket. And so that's kind of a lesson for all Americans to think about. How do we make change? How do we affect change? Is through participation in the process, is through voting, and it's through forming groups and coalitions. So AARP is a really powerful lobbying group. And that's why you don't see a lot of support for completely changing the Medicare system or the Social Security system, because AARP is always making sure that they let their senators and Congress people know that it should not be messed with. We're going to talk a little bit about the personal interview. And the reason why I have last week's worksheet up is because you're going to be interviewing somebody. It can be someone that you know personally or someone who's a client at your internship. In both cases, it's important to maintain their confidentiality, so we don't want full names or identifiable information that can reveal their identity. You also, if you would do it with somebody at your work or at your internship, make sure you discuss it with your field instructor or supervisor. And so what you want to do is you want to find out what kind of services they're receiving. And so we did this worksheet last week. Here's my cursor. So some of these services that I'm scrolling down here, pointing at, if they're recipients of any of these services, or the services that are listed on the assignment page, those are the people that you want to interview. And so you want to list their approximate age and identify the name of the actual service or program that they're participating in. So you want to use a book, what you're reading, summarize the program you discuss in your interview. How does this program help them? What are the benefits they received? Do they have frustrations? Or what are the limitations of the program that they perceive? And then that last question is really hypothetical. Imagine you're a social worker, a macro social worker, and you could impact program or policy which created the program. What do you think should be done to improve this program so it better meets clients' needs? So that one, you really take the information that you received in your interview and you think about, okay, what changes could be made? What are some ways that we can improve this program that the person I interviewed received? And so pretty straightforward assignment. It's important that you pay attention to this and do your interview sometime in the upcoming week. You don't want to be scrambling Sunday evening saying, oh, I have to do an interview. Let me see if I can find somebody. We want you to, if at all possible, be able to interview someone out in the field. And that way you can also use it for one of your learning contract activities if you review it with your field instructor. So the next steps, read chapter 10 of the text, complete the interview and submit the typed answers by Sunday, November 17th at 11:59. And reminder, so I did post the Module 14 folder, and that's where you can find the worksheet for the Module 4 assignment revision. You have all month to work on it. I suggest taking a look at it. If you choose to revise your assignment, to take a look at the worksheet and start thinking about, especially when you're thinking about your references and your policy. If your policy needs to be narrowed down a bit to be more focused, start thinking about that. Revision should be submitted by December 1st. And there's a discussion board form that was created for the process. If you have any questions that are general to the overall revision process, if it's not specific to your grade or to your policy topic, you could post your question there. But if you wanted to talk about your topic, I guess that's fine too. But you really need to run that by me to make sure that you are on the right track and that it's doable in terms of doing a fact sheet on that specific policy. So remember, this Module 4 assignment is linked to your final assignment, and that's why we want to be clear on what you are doing for a policy topic. And so a lot of the work that you did on the Module 4 assignment, if you kind of typed out a lot of information, a lot of narrative, you can still use that, but you might want to think about using it for your policy fact sheet. So if you did a lot of work on it, that doesn't mean that the work is lost. It just means that you just need to refine it and reuse that information for your fact sheet. And so with that being said, as usual, please contact me if you have any questions. It's been a great semester so far. Let's finish strong. I'm always here to respond to your questions or guidance, and I'll be working on catching up on my grading, on your grades this week. And so you will have a good idea of where you're at and how you can decide whether to do the revision or not. Thank you. Have a great week.